Welcome to Undressing Intimacy, where we cut through the bullshit
Greggy,
so we can get naked.
you can't say that.
Why not? How would you say it then?
Well, maybe more like, welcome to Undressing Intimacy, where we undress emotionally so we can undress physically.
That's exactly what I said. Not sure what the problem is. Welcome to episode number
94.
We are glad you are here.
Yes, we are. Like, truly, really, quite glad.
So we have discovered over the years of coaching that there is one absolute feeling that is the hardest to keep and is the most fading. And shocking enough, that feeling is joy and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a struggle because it's the one thing that you think you could double down on. You have some joy and happiness you should be able to take with you to be able to help you through some of the tougher times, to be able to get closer to those that you love and care about. But it is absolutely fleeting and fading.
Yes, it is. And I think there are many, and myself included, who were afraid to feel joy because if you felt joy, then maybe you'd kind of get off track or not work as hard or be motivated or get indulgent or slip into other things. So it was almost protective to not feel joy.
Yeah, and this week we had a couple of things that we did that kind of brought this to light for us. And we started talking about this around what does it look like to find joy in our marriages and in our families and in our intimate relationships? And what does it require for us to do this?
I think, first of all, it requires permission. I know that seems funny. Not permission from others, but permission within yourself, because so much of emotion is about allowing yourself to be present in it. And joy is an emotion. It's an experience that creates a joyful, light, maybe buoyant or maybe warm feeling within you. And so I think the first step is being able to allow yourself permission. And the second step is to actually even seek it out.
I think we've come to find out that we're so afraid of our emotions, for one, right? Because we don't understand what they're trying to tell us and how we process through them. We've talked about over and over again how if you try to push them down, ignore them, they're going to come back, they're going to be louder, they're going to be more obnoxious, they're going to do things to get your attention. And oftentimes we're going to do things that we're not happy about because we don't love the way that we approach those. And the problem we also see is that we're so afraid of those negative emotions, we do everything we can to tamp them down. There's not two faucets of emotions, right? We have a single faucet. So if we try to turn down those bad emotions and turn them off, oftentimes we turn off the joy and the happiness too, and we're not able to fulfill or fill those emotions. So it is back to the basics of understanding what emotions are and why they are part of our lives and how we can use them in a positive way, both negative and positive emotions.
So it's recognizing that so often what is negative or uncomfortable or maybe difficult or challenging is the pathway to be able to feel the joy, feeling the sense of accomplishment, feeling that expansion of yourself, which is naturally joyful. And one of the reasons this came up was yesterday I was feeling that tug again to check in with my desires every 6-ish months. It's, again, never planned. It just arises on its own. I sit down and just listen to myself and let myself write out a list of 25 desires, things that I want to experience in relationships, in my home, in my business, in my health, maybe in different hobbies and things that I want to learn or try, places I want to go, maybe people I want to visit. And I just let those flow. And I think this has been a really valuable practice, especially for me, because one of the false ideas that was programmed into me was life is all about only serving others and being needless and wantless. And so this practice allows me to be present with myself. And as I listen and recognize, no, I have a soul, I have a purpose, I have the capacity to experience joy, it it gives me that permission to then move in that way. And as I not only write my new ones, I also look back on the 25 that I wrote, again, 6-ish months or so. It's not something I put in my calendar. It's not something I schedule. It's just something that sort of seems like, you know what? It's time to check in again. And as I looked back over this list I happened to make the beginning of December 2025. First of all, the thing that always shocks me is how many of them are a reality now. They were a desire then, and they're a reality now. And that just shocks me because I don't go back and make a to-do list from them. This isn't something I'm checking in all the time. And so I don't really know exactly how this happens, but it seems like by just allowing myself permission to acknowledge and write down the ways that I want to expand, it's giving myself permission to enjoy, to develop, to expand in ways. And that is really joyful. So as I went over my list of my last 25, I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And this is so great. This is my reality now. This is what I'm living. And so I think a really important part of desires is they are a pathway to your joy. And they are also like, it's not only about wanting, but I think in that desire, that want that you have is a nudge towards your own growth, towards your own expansion, development, plus also just a cue into what does bring you joy, right? Sometimes it's not even only about expansion. Like sometimes it's places I want to go and things I want to visit. And I don't know that it's necessarily expanding my soul, except for it's just bringing me joy. Anyways, I think it's also important to want what you already have. What is your reality? To find joy in what is already a blessing and something that you have wanted, and you are now living in that reality. And that is done in just all these little moments. Like I wake up in the morning and so often I think, I can't believe this is my life. This is amazing. And that doesn't mean everything in my life is flowing effortlessly and that there aren't ups and downs and difficult points, but it's like, I get to live this. This is so amazing.
You got to be careful because you're not trying to gaslight yourself, right?
No.
There's things that you struggle with and you have problems with that aren't positive, but we oftentimes can focus on that. That's easy.
Yeah.
But we forget in the fray of life, in the middle of it, what do we have and what can we appreciate and what are these desires that we've wanted and now we see come to fruition? It's almost like we're so programmed on hitting one and going to the next and hitting one and going to the next. The object oriented, the objective oriented, goal seeking. And we forget to stop and just take notice that, hey, things are great in this area. In life, we've come to understand is a 50-50 thing, right? I just like to say, if you think everything is great, you're delusional. If you think everything is bad, you're depressed. So you don't want to be kind of in the middle of those two Ds, right? I said that one to one client and she said, well, differentiation is a D word. So she got me on that one. I don't know if I can say the D word thing anymore, but what we're trying to say is realizing life is made up of this mixed basket and you have to have both. You won't be able to appreciate those good things in your life that you're talking about if you don't realize that there's some struggles and some trials that you have that you're working through. Mm-hmm. And they ebb and flow. And sometimes you feel like you're in a good place and we're just hitting on all cylinders. And sometimes you don't. Like, for example, this weekend was fabulous. I got to have our son home, our oldest son from San Antonio. He came for the weekend, the long weekend for the 4th of July. And one of the things that I love to do with my boys is we love to sim race on iRacing. And one of the ways we can do this is usually it's a 4-hour race and it's in Nürburgring, Germany. And we can be all in our separate spots, right? So he can be down in San Antonio, and my youngest son can be in Abilene at school, and I can be up here. But through the glories of the intrawebs, we get to race together, and it's so much fun. And so we've been trying to race. They finally let me join because I didn't crash every corner. And so I'm still slow as can be and bring them down, but it's a joy to work with them and be able to do this. This weekend, it was actually a 6-hour race. And we went to go sign on. We were all ready to go. And because my son was up here and he didn't have his rig that he usually rides on, we were going to have to swap out rigs, him and I, and he has to have used mine. And he was trying to get used to it. We were trying to figure it out and how that was going to work. And we're like, oh, okay, I think we kind of have it figured out. And then we went to sign up and we signed up wrong and we couldn't race that day. And it was disappointing. It was like, this was sad. This desire we had to race together. We only had one other opportunity. We had two. We could have gone late that night and been late and not done fireworks or anything with the family on the 4th of July. Or we could do it early the next morning. And if you know my two boys, they don't show up early in life. They will sleep in. So I was a little worried about that, but we chose to do it early the next morning. Long story short, we found some major issues with my son's computer that was crashing, and with my rig, the seat stopped working, and things that would have been detrimental to that race as we practiced some more and got used to this new setup. And so we got to work those things out, and we got to go and race yesterday. Now, the joy was we won, and it's been a long time coming, and it was a lot of fun. But even
this is the first one you've ever won.
This is the first one I've won with them. They've won other ones in other classes, but this is the first one that they've let me participate in this car and that we won. So it was the first
and
one.
You're racing other real people driving,
it's real people.
And it simulates
all over the world
the exact race and the cars and so it's a really amazing technological experience.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But as I went back and we celebrated, and my son got back to San Antonio, we were texting back and forth, and just how much fun we had and how much we enjoyed it, I also started thinking about the trials we had to get there and how to work through. And even in the race, like, it wasn't a perfect race. My youngest son spun out because he forgot to put his ABS and traction control on. And so he came out of the pits and spun out and lost a big lead. And then I got in there and I had been faster during practice, but I was slow as mud. My kids think that I'm trying to save gas, or they don't know what I'm doing. They're like, Dad, are you breathing over there? And I thought I'd gotten better and I could actually be faster in the race itself, but it didn't happen. And then I spun out twice. We had this huge lead and it got down to nothing. And I battled. They were going to have me come in and maybe switch out. I'm like, I'm going to battle. My car's okay. So I battled through that. Again, I wasn't blazing fast, but I was fast enough to hold on to the very end as I was coming into the pits to switch out. Number 2 actually passed us going into that. The strategy played out and we had a fast car and we put the fast boys in there and we ended up winning. But just going back there and thinking about it, the ups and downs we had to endure. And part of the joy playing out in this was being able to endure that with my boys. Mm-hmm. And my boys are amazing. We give each other plenty of shit. Don't get me wrong, especially my youngest one. I can poke his button every single time because it's fun. But in the moment as we're doing this, as my son's sitting on the side because he spun out, it's like, you got it, focus forward, get the car back going. So much positiveness. We'll get there. We're going to go. This is how we pick each other up. When I did it the same way, we got you, Dad, keep going, you're good. And just looking back on it, what a pleasure it was to be able to go through those up and downs, which made the actual victory that much better. Mm-hmm. And really, it is what we're talking about in life. We're going to have these ebbs and flows. We're going to have these ups and downs in life. But if we're not willing to stop and look at the joys that we have, able to stop and say, what do I desire and want out of life? Then we'll let life live us. Mm-hmm. And our brains can go in automatic mode and we can just go from thing to thing and do. But that's when we look at and we find out we're not close to each other and we've lost those relationships and that we have desires that we're not speaking about. I can't believe how hard it was for some of my clients, especially my female clients, to even list out their desires without listing out everyone else as the desires around them, their kids and their husbands and everyone else. So I guess what we want to say in this is, one, identifying your desires is so important and holding on to those, and then just buckle up for the ride. And even in the lows, realize that you're in the midst of something and it could be great or it could go worse. You don't know. You have those moments. But it is the working through those things that cause life to be worth living and the relationships you have to be worth having.
one of my desires was to learn how to ride a horse. And first it was learn to sit, and then it was learn to trot. And now I'm working on learning to lope. And in the middle of this process, I have fallen in love with an older horse named Dr. Pepper, who I don't own, but I dearly love, and just developed a really great relationship with him. And we learned together and we're working together. And then 2 weeks ago, right before we went on our trip, found out his owner, who has all the rights to do this, owner was moving, and he was moving Dr. Pepper to another state. And it was crushing. And I allowed myself to feel the crush, because the crush was a sign of the love and what we had developed and what we had been working on. And also the uncertainty of, how am I going to move forward in this goal, and what's it going to look like, and what's it going to take, and being in the unknown of that.
We tried for a second. They're like, "Oh, no problem. You can ride Clifford, right?"
Oh, yeah. That
I
didn't
found Amy at the end of the arena standing there, and Clifford, I'm not moving.
Yeah, it was a no-go on Clifford. Love him dearly, but it was not a good pairing.
He's just not going to give you anything. He's going to
No.
find your weakness and he's going to exploit it to be lazy.
Yes. So that was a no-go. That was discouraging. And one of the maybe beliefs, philosophies, mantras that I carry is that I will have everything I need when I need it. And so I was out for a run, and I was feeling grief at losing this horse. I was feeling some discouragement that Clifford wasn't taking to me very well. And so kind of felt, like this path is blocked. And I was like, no, remember, you'll have everything you need when you need it. Okay. I don't know how this will unfold, but I'm going to believe that it can, and it will. And it did. Another opportunity opened up. Another person at the barn very generously offered me to ride their horse Luther, who is a gentle giant, and who I think I will continue to be able to learn and grow on. So I had a first few rides with him, and again, it's going to challenge me to learn in so many ways. But I think the point of this is not that you don't have emotions and you're only trying to live in joy. It's that you allow the reality of what is and also find the joy. Even in the grief, I was thinking, I am so grateful that I had this opportunity. It was almost 3 years. I didn't realize it was that long, to be able to work with this horse, Dr. Pepper, and to be able to learn with him and from him. And he was so patient with me. He was so patient.
Maybe half dead, but
that's okay. And I was so grateful for that. And I have been grateful all the way through. I didn't know it was going to come to an end so fast. It was pretty sudden. It was like on a Saturday. Oh, by the way, he's leaving. And then we left on a Monday. So a pretty fast turnaround there, pretty fast change. And changes will come unexpectedly and fast and seemingly out of nowhere. There will be disruptions. There will be things that happen. And I think that there's also the possibility to believe that good can still exist.
Yeah, talk about the perfect paradox for this lesson, right? So you had gone through this grieving of losing Dr. Pepper. I'd mentioned a few weeks ago, we lost our trainer, my first trainer that we had for a horse, for Clifford. And that was very unexpected, and that was very sad. And here she was, so willing to love and give and share of her knowledge of horses. I was a duck out of water. I had no idea what I was doing. And she was willing to kindly take me under her arm and help me learn. We suddenly lost her. And it was actually a while until the family had a funeral. And so it was at that funeral that we're grieving the loss of this person, that she left us way too soon.
Way too soon.
And it was at that place that this other gal came up and offered you to ride Luther.
Yeah.
The major paradox of mourning a loss and gaining something new.
Right.
And I think it goes back again, the ebbs and flows of life, being able to process through both of those and not get stuck in one or the other. And knowing that no matter where we're at today, tomorrow's another day, and we get to decide and choose how we're going to do it. The moment. What's the next moment going to bring?
Yeah.
And we're not talking, again, gaslighting. No, we're not going to gaslight ourselves.
No.
That's not processing through your emotions. And when we find those are really usually what causes behaviors we don't like, as we talked about. And so it is the willingness to go through and mourn. Amy was sad.
I
And I
was.
and I'll tell you this, it
I
taught me.
was very sad because if you love something or someone, you're going to grieve at their loss because the grief is a part of the love. And so I didn't stop the grief. And yet I was grateful for the experience, but also there was sadness and loss in that.
And it taught me because I've been working so hard not to be enmeshed into your emotions, not to allow myself to be enmeshed in them either, right? I didn't try to fix it. I didn't try to say, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll find another horse. We live next to a barn. Come on." Like I didn't
Right.
go all the places that I would have probably usually gone trying
Yeah,
to
like
fix this
buck up,
emotion
just be
because yeah,
happy.
be glad you had them or whatever. Or I'm so sad. I would have been so intertwined with your emotions before. It would have been very difficult to stay out of them. And I noticed that too. There was times where I wanted to go there and I had to
Hmm.
stop myself from going there, just loving and supporting you through it. And it was a good reminder of where we're at and where we've come from and how difficult these things can be.
So I think just to make a contrast here, we talk all the time about Eros.
Yep.
Eros being the life force, vibrancy, aliveness. And part of aliveness is being willing to experience the negative and the positive. It is not shutting off the faucet of either, seeing that it is an ebb and flow between them. And what I think what both of us have done before really learning this, and what I see clients doing, is trying to escape or trying to, what I heard Dr. Jennifer Finlayson Fife call it recently, use misery stabilizers, where you're not actually allowing for the negative and processing through it and moving to the positive. You're just staying in this escaped or avoidant or suppressed state of misery. And in that case, you aren't living out your desires. You aren't listening to yourself. You aren't allowing yourself to either experience joy or sorrow. It's like this numb space.
Yeah, it was interesting because then you said that talked about the faucet we just talked about earlier, right? That
Mm-hmm.
kind of flows into that because you're trying to stabilize yourself in these emotions and just live through them without processing through them. You turn them down and it
Yeah.
turns everything down, not
Mm-hmm.
just the negative emotions, but the positive ones too.
And you start feeling, I was just coaching with a client last week, and he was describing his life as just being lifeless, numb, stale, boring, and yet being so afraid of boredom that it would move to these misery stabilizers very quickly. And I think the same thing can be positive or can be a misery stabilizer. I think a lot of it depends on what you go to it for. For example, his misery stabilizer was video games. Do I think video games are evil and should never be played? No, not at all. In fact, I think you can have a great time gathering and they can actually produce a lot of joy, but that wasn't the way that he was engaging with them. And so he found the more that he engaged with this, the more miserable he became, and the more miserable, and the more he needed it, and the more he needed it until it was consuming his whole life. And he felt like there wasn't really any life in his life. And that's when I start leading people back to, let's listen to your desires. Let's see what's calling to you. What's nudging? What's tapping you on the shoulder saying, here's a way towards joy. Here's a way towards expansion. Here's a way to be interested and engaged. Life has so many freaking possibilities. I think that's the other thing I realized when I was doing the desires yesterday. So many avenues of interest, expansion, liveness, vibrancy, endless, infinity possibilities. And I think they're just waiting for us to listen and expand in them.
I think it was a perfect example. We were in the middle of recording this and we got a phone call from our daughter and
Yes.
popped up on our phone as our granddaughter. And I think about her, we have to learn these traits to protect ourselves. That's what we do over time because with her, you get exactly what she's at. You know, she's full of joy and a bundle, and she's just going to tell you, she's going to laugh, she's going to be in that moment. And then if she's not happy, you'll know it too, right? There's no having to guess where she's at. She's not trying to process through it or hide it or do anything. At
Yeah.
that age, that toddler age, they're just purely living their emotions.
And
and
the
it's wonderful
delight
to
and
see.
wonder
Yeah.
and awe she has at everything. Today she was calling because she has a knitted bunny on her shirt that's sewn
Yeah.
on, and she was so proud of her bunny, and
She
she wanted to
loves
show us,
bunnies.
she does, how she could hop like a bunny and show us her bunny, and just pure delight at this little item. And when we were with her, it was pure delight at a color or a flower or playing in rocks. She loves rocks, and she says, rock? Just like really so cute. Anyway, and I think for us too, there's a lot of that available to us. Just noticing what you really enjoy, enjoying what you have, liking, wanting what you have, right? Greggy makes me this amazing drink of my favorite, either orange or passion
We
tazo
learned it
tea.
at Wigby.
We learned it in Wigby, and then he adds ice to it, and it's just, it's so yummy. And when I taste it, I just burst with joy. And sometimes it's a sunrise or a sunset or hearing laughter or just being in a moment where you're like, I was sitting on the couch the other day, just looking out the window at all the flowers and the trees and hearing the sounds of my family. And I was like, just bursting with joy in my heart. And it wasn't like there were tons of things happening, right? There's just these moments of allowing that joy, allowing that satisfaction or delight to bubble up.
Like I opened with this podcast, this is the feeling that is so fleeting, the easiest to go away and not stay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's because we're so worried that it's not going to stay. And so we start focus on it and it goes away. But being able to sit in it and just say, yeah, I'm happy. This is joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate this is so amazing and wonderful.
And I think it's joyful to just savor what's good,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, absolutely. And as we transition this into our intimate lives,
Yeah.
into our sexual relationships, I think it's even more heightened and true.
Yes.
And this is where we find people all wound up and they think everything is a disaster. And it usually is pretty disastrous because we've gotten ourselves there. Because this is where it's mostly on the line, where we're most exposed, where we can't really hide, where we try our best to hide our true desires and emotions, but we can't because our spouses can read us. And just the last podcast, we talked about why that is because of our minds being able to try to steady themselves, and they can't because our spouses aren't steady. And they read that unsteadiness and unsurety and unsafety. But we really find this in the sexual relationship. It's very much heightened.
You can't allow yourself to be in erotic space. Remember, life-giving vibrancy, it's a space you have to have permission to be free, to be you, to experience pleasure, to be able to want that pleasure, not to have to separate yourself or hold back yourself. Or sometimes I find that women dissociate or disembody because they're uncertain about their capacity to actually receive pleasure, to receive enjoyment. And so I feel like the practice of enjoying what is in the other areas of your life, of allowing yourself to have desires, then also supports that in the bedroom, right? Allowing yourself to feel pleasure, to be comfortable feeling pleasure, to be comfortable receiving, to be comfortable giving, to be comfortable to be free in your body. Those things, because a lot of times, at least when I'm feeling joy or awe or wonder in the other parts of my life, it's related somehow to my senses, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, what I'm feeling, what I'm tasting, what I'm
The
touching.
context.
Yeah, it's an embodied experience. And so allowing yourself to get comfortable in those types of experiences also translates into the bedroom.
Yeah, and from my side and from most men that I've talked about, it's the vulnerability of understanding that our desires are one, not bad, and two, that when our desires aren't met with exact looking desires from our spouse, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with us and that we're broken. And so try not to extract that validation out of our spouse when we can go away from a playground that's completely built and dragging our spouse and kicking and screaming because we want them to play in our playground to co-collaborating and be able to build that playground together, that's where this joy and the desires can actually flesh themselves out. And if you were to ask me a couple years ago to say that my sexual relationship with Amy was going to be something that was pure joy, I probably would have told you crazy, maybe 5 years ago. But I was like, this is the miserable, right? This is where I feel so stuck. This is where I feel not heard or seen. This is where I feel the most angst and I feel the most sadness is in this relationship. And my goal was to get it to look like me and to have Amy be like me. And when I got rid of that goal, I started to collaborate. It's like mind blowing. It's just unbelievable of where that can go and the joy that can be felt. And so it kind of echoes everything we've said in desires. It's a very focused place where these emotions are intense and desires are intense and then they play out. And so if there's any issues we're having with processing through our emotions or being honest with our partners outside of that, they're definitely going to show up in the bedroom as we try to enjoy each other sexually because it just heightens those.
And I'm thinking too, when I was in the belief that my goodness was in this needlessness, not wanting, it was really difficult to transition into a space that was about having desires. And so I think even just the capacity to say, I want to feel something good. I deserve to feel something good. I am capable of pleasure.
You were even stuck to the point where you thought pleasure might be not morally correct for you, right?
Right. So,
You had to
like,
get rid of those blockers.
right, getting rid of those blockers. And then also, if you are needless and wantless, you'll enter into this erotic space to serve and to give and sort of be like separating yourself out to make sure that your spouse is having the experience they need to be having in this managing tracking instead of a present self. And so, one of the things that has really helped me was to be able to acknowledge that I have desires, I have needs, I have wants, period, in emotionally, physically, mentally, in my marriage, in my family relationships, in my friendships, that I have desires of things I want to learn and places I want to go and things I want to build or create and do within my home and within myself. And that capacity then helped me to gain more strength in the bedroom and the erotic side. Yes, I am a good person because I have needs and wants. And I think sometimes we get responsive desire wrong in that women who have been afraid to develop in desire will say, I'm responsive. And sometimes I'll say, yes, you probably are. But more than that, you've blocked
You've killed your
your
desires.
permission to just have desire. And so that's not really describing responsive desire because responsive desire has desire in it.
Yeah, and that's kind of why we went away from the low and the high desire too, because as a woman with responsive desire, you have plenty of desire.
Yes.
They was always there.
Yes.
You just were afraid to tap into it.
So sometimes I see a lot of therapy languages and different things misused and misapplied all the time. But I've been seeing this one a lot more lately. And responsive desire doesn't mean absence of desire. It doesn't mean I'm afraid to enter in this. Responsive means you have desire. It just takes a little bit to warm up the context and access it. Often what I'm seeing before that is primarily women who, there are a few men who are afraid to even experience desire, who are afraid to acknowledge that they're a whole person and that their desires have worth and will ask them to expand in all sorts of ways and will allow them to feel joy and pleasure. And that's not indulgent, it's not selfish, and it's not destructive.
Yeah, I think we think all those things, right? Or we think we're indulging and being destructive, and then it's just the opposite. It's rejuvenating, it's rebuilding, it's replenishing. When we got that book Replenished, I thought, what the heck are you talking about? Just even to think about the sexual act, the intimate act of sexuality being replenishing, that was like mind blowing at the time. But it really is the place you can go to fill yourself back up, to get away from the task driven world of getting things done and being. And It's just, I don't know. I can't even
And it's
explain or
not
find
about ego and
no,
achievement. There's no ego in it. I've been seeing that a lot more lately too, where people
there
are,
can't be ego in
there
it
can't be, where
because it kills the arrows
they're fighting to reach some level that they think
or
someone
extract
else,
something out of it.
or extract, or be the better partner because they do more this or more that. Oh, it's not about ego.
Not at all. I wish I had the words to describe what it feels like when we simmer in the morning, because I think that's a perfect description of the overall well being of our sexual relationship.
It's joyful.
Yeah, I used to be rolling over and even just touching or holding each other in the morning was anxiety driven and expectation building, right? What was going to happen next? And to feel you pull away and worry about that or not engage fully because you're worried about that, and me to drive further and try to extract more out of that was just so miserable. And it's so now just we are where we're at and we can just be.
Mhm.
We can intertwine and be together.
I think that's a part of joy too. It's when you allow yourself to fully inhabit a moment, be fully present in something, whether it's beautiful music, beautiful scenery, beautiful connection, beautiful laughter, just in like fully there.
Yeah. Again, we are not special in any way. So sometimes it's hard to talk about where our relationship is now because I don't want to feel like we're getting on some soapbox and saying, look at us, we're perfect in certain ways. We mess it up a lot. But to think about where we came from and how miserable we were and the lack of joy that we had in our relationship, we got shit done. We certainly did. But there was a lack of joy because we could not understand how to own our desires and how to truly partnership in those. To look back and see now just where we've come from and the hard work we had to put in, but mostly the love that we had from people that helped us get there is so important. And this is why we do what we do, really, because watching others be able to grasp this and see the joy in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Talk
See
about
the
the
light
moment that
come
the
back
pillow
up.
comes
I
out
know.
away from the couple and now they're literally sitting on top of each other.
Or to see someone enjoy themselves and their life again, or to enjoy their marriage again.
I had a client that said, I hadn't played the piano in years and I picked up the piano and started playing again. What did it feel like? Oh my gosh, it was so good. I played every day this week. Those simple things that we forget because we stuck in the middle of all the domestic tasks that we're doing that come alive.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been so blessed to have people help us through this. And that's why we love to help others. And so please, we would love to help you do this. We have an excellent, excellent way of doing this. It's not a lot of time. It's an hour every week and it's really, really affordable. And we would love to have you join our group coaching. And it's even becoming more than group coaching. I've talked to Amy about how we almost need to rename it because
It's
the
really more
resources.
of a marriage enhancement program, like a marriage educational
Well, it's not
program,
even in that the
because it's
resources
so
are
skill
there. Yeah.
based.
And the resources that are there online, the worksheets that you can follow along, you can watch and you can come back. We're starting to build a library of topics that are very important, we know, to an intimate relationship. And just having them at your fingertips are so amazing. We'd love to have you join us there and be part of that. You can go to Link for Life Coaching and you can click on group coaching. I'll put the link in this podcast too to get there. And then, as always, 45 minutes of your life. That's all it would take. There's no commitment. We would love to chat with you.
And a
Free
free
consult.
consult. 28 years ago, I called you my joie de vivre.
And I told her that it was French. I didn't understand it. And I thought it meant pain in the ass.
It's not. It
We got a
means,
picture of us, our wedding day. I'm like, pain in our ass. We put it up on the wall.
yeah, and it has the vinyl letters under it, the joie de vivre, and our wedding date. And I really think the reason I want to talk about this is because we aren't intended to make each other joyful. And yet, when we allow ourselves to feel that, it brings joy to the relationship. And what I noticed about you when we were dating and first married was this joie de vivre, this joy of living, this ability to capture the goodness of moments and people and, humor and life and this vitality. And I think that's possible for everyone in all of our different ways with all of our different personalities. And that's, I think, what I wanted to speak to today, to remind you that you have that spark in you, you have that life in you, and your relationship can too.
Give yourself permission to go feel it, knowing that as you do, you'll probably feel some negative stuff too, right? Because you may open up the faucet and have it come in, but that's okay. You can process through it, enjoy the joy, hold on to it, process through it, be grateful for it. We're so blessed and we're so grateful. So we really appreciate you joining us. And until next time,
Keep undressing your intimacy.
bye-bye.